A businessman parked his brand new car on the street and went into a shop to buy some groceries. When he got back, he found an 11-year-old boy admiring his car with eyes full of wonder. The poor boy asked the rich businessman if that car was his. The rich man replied yes, and added that his brother had gifted him the car on his birthday. Most of us would wish to have a brother like that. But the businessman was stunned by the little boy's reply. I wish I could be a brother like that. Here was a boy in rags who was richer in heart than the businessman in the car. The businessman invited the boy for a drive. After a long drive, he dropped the little boy home in one of the slums. In a flash, the boy ran into his home and returned carrying his little brother in his arms. The little brother was crippled with infantile paralysis. Pointing to the car, the boy said to his paralyzed younger brother, "Sonny, one day I'm going to buy you a car like that. We can drive around all day long and enjoy the wonderful lights and sights of the town." "Hold on," said the businessman. "Your brother is going to enjoy the lights and the sights of the town right now." And he opened wide the door of his car once again and took both the brothers for a drive. That night, when he got home, the businessman told his wife about what had happened. And he concluded saying, "Those few hours with the two little brothers in the car were the happiest moments of my life." In the Gospel through the parable of the rich man and Lazarus, Jesus cautions us about the dangers of wealth and its consequences on our life. Having wealth is not a sin. Being wealthy is not a crime. But wealth coupled with greed can blind us to the needs of others. This is where the real danger lies. Lazarus, in Hebrew Eleazar, means God is my help. Lazarus therefore is not just a poor man, but a poor man who believes and trusts in God for help. This is the only parable of Jesus where the character has a name. The prodigal son, the rich fool, the 10 bridesmaids, the unforgiving servant are all without names. Jesus introduces the poor man with a name, Lazarus. The rich man is nameless. This is just the opposite of what we do. We honor and remember the names of the rich. The poor have no names. They have no identity. The parable does not tell us that Lazarus was a man who did good deeds, nor was the rich man a cruel and wicked person. We are told that the rich man feasted every day. At the time of Jesus, 2000 years ago, there were no spoons and forks as we have today. Even the rich ate with their fingers. There were no tissue papers or napkins. The rich wiped and dried their stained fingers with bread and threw this bread under the table for the domestic cats and pet dogs to feed on. Lazarus' only wish was to feed on these crumbs. He bore his pain and hunger patiently. He did not complain or grumble or revolt or steal or bribe. We might label Lazarus as a lazy and good-for-nothing fellow. Jesus made no judgment about Lazarus. The rich man was not a bad person who had hurt Lazarus or others or stolen from them. He minds his own business. He did not involve and unnecessarily interfere in their lives. The rich man was not a criminal. He did not abuse Lazarus, punish him, spit on him, or kick him out. The rich man was innocent. He was not responsible for the poverty and misery of Lazarus. The Gospel does not even say that Lazarus begged for help and that the rich man refused to help him. What was the sin of the rich man then? The rich man's world was a small, selfish world of I, me, and myself. He had no time for others, and so he did not notice Lazarus, who was on his doorstep, hungry, suffering, and abandoned. Dressed in the finest of clothes and living in his palatial surroundings, the rich man was engrossed in the pursuit of pleasure and riches. He was unaware of the world around him. The rich man did not do anything bad, but neither did he do anything good. The rich man was suffering from the worst kind of poverty, poverty of the heart. His heart was empty. It was devoid of love and compassion. He did nothing to Lazarus. He did nothing for Lazarus. He ignored Lazarus. His wealth became his master. He forgot God and his neighbor. The rich man failed to help Lazarus. His crime was that he was insensitive and indifferent. Another story of a man who died and arrived before God. God went through the book of life and did not find the man's name. So God announced to the man that his place was in hell. The man protested, "But what did I do? I did nothing." "Precisely," replied God, "that is why you are going to hell. You did nothing." Insensitivity and indifference are the two hidden sins of our times. Until and unless something affects us, we are insensitive and indifferent towards us. Who wants to get involved with people and issues that do not concern us? The parable of Lazarus and the rich man does not mean that all the rich will go to hell and all the poor will go to heaven. There is no automatic reversal of roles. Rich people who use their wealth to serve God in their fellow human beings will still be blessed in the next life. Poor people who spend their lives in bitterness and regret, refusing to believe and trust in God, as Lazarus did, may yet again find themselves suffering in the next life. We live in a world of contrasts, of contradictions, and of opposites. We find mansions and slums side by side. Lazarus continues to live even today in the many children dying of hunger, of abuse, and of neglect. Lazarus continues to suffer in the plight of refugees, of migrants, and people displaced by war and floods and cyclones, and in so-called developmental projects which leave them without a home and without a sense of belongingness. Let us ask God for the grace that we may never ignore, never be insensitive, never be indifferent, never remain uninvolved, especially in the lives of the helpless and less privileged children of God. Amen.